We're not one entity yet.
No, we haven't. I mean, we haven't talked for like 2 weeks on stream. So who knows where our heads are at?
What do you think of me IRL?
We did. We commiserated IRL for a while. Now that I think about it.
Yes.
How you been since then?
Well, since I met you at the conference, I
Yep.
had the dreaded the conference confluenza or variant. So I get to sound all husky like this.
I mean, honestly, I didn't even notice.
Thanks.
Is what it is. I don't think we can do physical, like real world stuff anymore without getting a little bit sick. I think we've just entered a lowered immune system response that for most people in most jobs, if you meet up with more than 20 people at once, you're gonna get sick for a little bit.
Yeah. And well, what a high cost to pay. So that means we should feel like it's more precious when we see each other. I've literally given away my immune system to hang out with you.
Yeah. Was it worth it?
Yes, certain parts of it.
Okay, so not fully. It was partially worth it.
I don't know. Did you go through like the 5 stages of grief? After
like
the conference?
like at the conference or after?
I guess we had both during and after.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I just am figuring out more and more what I want to be spending my time on in different parts of my life, and big, like, agglomerated events with a bunch of different people is much less interesting to me than like 10 people I really like for, a couple hours. What about you?
I feel the same way. Perhaps we will address that later today as we talk about an essay about big groups of people and the social cultural phenomenon that occurs.
Yeah,
when we all hang out.
we'll be talking about geeks, mops, and sociopaths in a little bit. I don't know how to pronounce your name, commenter. It's either OG Baby or Oga Baby. Either way, thanks for dropping in. Sorry that the countdown felt like a long time. I get it. We kind of feel it too, because we're like trying to hype each other up before the show, and we're just like watching the clock tick down.
Yeah, we're like, okay, time to hit live. What's your beverage of choice today? Oh, it's one of those ice things, huh?
Yeah, I got some sparkling water. I actually bought this like 3 weeks ago because I forgot we weren't going to do a show 2 weeks ago. And because like I try to get a new fun beverage for every show. And this one is sparkling ice, coconut pineapple. I don't love coconut, so I don't really know why I thought I would like this. I like pineapple, and so it's like fine.
Do you like pina coladas?
No.
Oh, and then why the heck did you get this beverage?
Because it was a choice between this and I think a cherry drink, and I hate cherry.
Oh, okay, me too. We at least have that in common.
Yeah,
It's
and
because
a
like
cherry
I don't
drink.
know whether those in the chat grew up with the same thing. Like cherry is a very cough syrup associated flavor.
Yeah, it's medicinal. It's like
Yeah.
it's I'm also like I can drink Jaeger, but I'm not a fan of it. Like I don't like the licorice flavor either. Nabila,
So-
thanks for dropping by.
Thank you so much.
So Kristen, what are you geeking out over right now?
Well, I've been geeking out over how much of AI to use.
Okay, say more about that.
So, as you know, I've had having this like tension with friends as well because I have some friends who are using it as like a very very like deep self inquiry tool. Let's just say. Right?
Yeah,
like, 'cause you
which
can
is-
use it to as a like actually I think Emmett Shear, do you know what I'm talking about? The guy who talked Sam Altman down in the end.
Twitter guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he posted something recently where he said that the AI is almost like the story of like narcissists,
Yeah,
where he's
for sure.
cursed to stare at the pond with his own mirror image.
Yeah.
But it's not so like simple. There's a secondary layer of why was he cursed in the original story. It's
Okay.
because he this other nymph whose name is Echo, who can only repeat what other people are saying, fell
Right.
in love with him, and then he was like, "Who the heck are you?" And I was like, "No thanks," and because of that, he was cursed as a result of rejecting this Echo's love.
Okay.
So then the layer comes in of like, is like AI echo? Because it's actually repeating what you're saying, right? It's
Yeah, for
mimicking you.
sure. Yeah, I sent you.
So I thought that was interesting too. But of course, the ending is like, oh, by the way, I use AI to write this story or co-write this story.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously talk about this a lot offline, but I just sent you that AI safety research engineer who
Hmm.
used to run OpenAI's AI safety research, basically saying, "Hey, I don't think that they're doing the tests that they need to do." He stopped working in late 2024
Hmm.
at OpenAI. Not sure if he got fired or he left, but just I
Are you
might
talking
have a
about
little bit.
Nick Camarata? Did he say that?
No, well, I don't know. I just whatever's in the chat. I don't like. I didn't look at the author's name. Maybe his name is like Sheldon or something.
Mm.
But I th- I think I have a pretty low opinion of what people are doing to be responsible with technologies that are coming out right now.
Hmm.
Obviously, we talk about copyright stuff. Obviously, we talk about like you know, is there an ethical use of AI, whether
Hmm.
for personal or professional purposes? And like all the questions are pretty hard. Um, oh, Mariam, thanks for dropping in. And oh, I was completely wrong. It's okay, baby. Interesting. But yeah, Kristen. So like, have you learned anything from looking at the mirror of yourself?
So, going back to the name Sheldon, so that means the article you sent me last night was from the same guy, or not the
What
same
did,
guy.
what did I
But you
send
were
you?
sending me an article about the measure of sycophancy in
Mm-hmm.
AI. Hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah,
But the
that's
idea of
the
that.
article I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the idea is that this researcher was demonstrating how even the developers of these AI tools are not sure of how much or how the AI has a tendency to either over or undershoot in matching
Yep.
what it perceives you to think about. Right. And this can be very dangerous because, let's just say you have someone who is a sociopath. It is very easy for the AI to start mirroring that kind of behavior. So then you have to run all these tests to make sure. And then he was testing whether, like, pre-announcing some political associations would make it match you, or whether if you say I like number 69, and then would it guess what does it? Does the AI also like the number 69?
Yeah.
Which I thought was a very clever test.
Yeah. But like the whole point is to figure out, is it telling you something that is like right, whatever the
Hmm.
context of what you're asking is, or is it trying to make whoever's interacting with it happier than before they interacted with it? And as many stories throughout history tell, like having a thing that just wants to please you and also potentially has access to the entire world's information and can also now kind of interact with it
Hmm.
rarely ends up well. And so that's kind of the nightmare that we were diving into last night. So that's fun. But
Yeah.
also the tool's pretty useful. So I don't know.
But you were encouraging me to use it more and to resist it a bit less,
I
while also sending me
encourage,
the article.
yeah, I encourage people to use the new tool in ways that one that they can freaking stomach, assuming that they have a decent moral compass. Like I think it's pretty not cool to just like say, write me a romantasy novel and then print that out and then immediately just shove it into Amazon and publish it. Like I think that's an unethical use of AI and also not to mention a way to write pretty bad stories. But if you are working through something, having a mirror that will like talk to you about it when you don't have a friend that you can talk about, your poem, article, whatever, as long as you are sufficiently skeptical of that thing's opinion of your stuff, because as you pointed out, the article, like it's gonna tell you did a good job most of the time, and you kind of have to
Hmm.
wrestle like with it to get it to say something negative about you, which is honestly what most people that are making things kind of need to hear is like, no, you didn't make a perfect little angel baby poem like this. It's weak here or weak here. Um, I kind of use it as a default to sanity test my communications with people, especially if I don't know them that well. What I'll do is I'll like drop a paragraph in and I'll be like, what is this? What is the author like trying to say? And then
Mm-hmm.
I'll follow up with like, what is a more effective way of saying it? Maybe like 70, 80% of the time, I don't change what I wrote because I like said what I intended to say. But like every
Mm-hmm.
once in a while, I'll be like, oh, I didn't, think about this aspect of it. So like I think of that as being an ethical and useful use to kind of, I don't know. It's like having a little bit of like a magic little gin in a bottle where if you let it do its thing, it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna screw stuff up because it loves mischief. But if you like control it and like get it in the like keep it in the bottle, it can sometimes do good stuff for you. What's up, Priyanka?
I think it's clever how you make it sound like you didn't write the thing, so that it doesn't become sycophantic over what you wrote first. So I
Okay.
think I'll make that little change too, of like not saying that I wrote it, but like being like, this exists. What do you think?
I did not do that on purpose. That's
Hmm.
how I think about everything. I don't know
Oh,
if there's something deeper with that.
let's wrestle with that for a second.
Yeah, no, can you like what I would ask the AI next is like explain how you interpreted what I just said.
Hmm.
So like what did you hear from that conversation?
Am I the AI in this
Yeah, no,
case?
that was me asking Christian a question.
Uh huh. So, I mean, I interpret it as like you somehow know to put yourself in the third person when you're interacting with it, which accidentally gives you an edge since you didn't seem to have done it on purpose.
I That's so funny. The I mean, I think about myself in the third person a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's weird.
I
No,
didn't know
no, no,
that.
no. Like, huh?
I didn't know that. Is that weird? Like I don't go like, "Oh, Cameron did this," but like when I'm trying to figure out like um something, like either I write something or I do something and I'm looking back on it, I like look at it as like, okay, this is a person with this context that did this, and this, and this. What
Hmm.
is my assessment of that thing? It's not like I did all of these things. What do I think about
That's accidentally more Buddhist.
it? I just thought it was dissociative.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I feel like when people talk about dissociation and Buddhism, I feel very torn because I think there is a little bit of relationship, but I also think Western psychology over pathologizes it. Oh, I like how Crazy Frog just said Cameron's mind really is just a small man in a box.
Yeah, no, I'm
Hopeless.
definitely controlled by a little golem.
So what has the little golem been wrestling with this week?
I mean, I'm coming out of. I mean, I'm in the middle of some grief cycles, as we talked about. I shut down my startup a couple weeks ago. I'm still like that process kind of drags because got to like file forms and taxes and wait for responses and stuff. So I can't like clean break. We're breaking up and then be done. Like
Hmm.
I have to be done, have all the hard conversations, and then do the cleanup work to finish it. So I'm kind of grieving that. Oh, that's a sneaky emotional check-in. Thanks for doing that. We had said we were going to do that, and we didn't do that. Um, for anyone that is following along with the show, we don't follow along with what we try to do because we both get distracted very easily. But so I'm kind of going through some grief processes with that. Been playing, like I bought a cheapo drum set off of Craigslist, which is cool, or Facebook Marketplace rather. And, I've been playing that in my basement, which is fun. Been doing some writing, dropping some stuff in the Discord, some sneak previews. If y'all aren't in the Discord, the link will be below this video. I don't think it's there yet. I don't know if you set that up.
Theoretically, it's there.
Theoretically, hypothetically, but so like those are all kind of things that are intermixing, and I'm trying to make progress towards the next chapter, which steps 4, 5, 10 involve making money without immediately getting more burned out than I already am. So I'm like making slow little bits of progress on like setting up the next few things, updating my website, launching some poetry stuff that I can hopefully sell. But I try to do like I'm a pretty like hyperfixation kind of person, and so what I want to do is I want to do nothing but the thing for like 18 hours and then pass out.
Hmm.
But I need to spend a couple weeks, maybe a couple months not doing that because I've done that for like 3 years right now, and I'm pretty fried. What about you? What are you wrestling with right now?
Oh gosh. Similar. It's really weird because right now I am preparing to give a talk at Edge Esmeralda, which means
Nice.
I need to have something to talk about.
We're,
Edge
we're big
Esmeralda
edging
is
fans
a
on this show.
yeah, it's a network city conference that's happening a few hours away from where I live, so not too. It's like awkwardly not too far. It's like 2 hours away driving.
That's a
So
day trip. Not so bad.
yeah, not so bad. And it's gonna be full of these like investors and like people who are into consciousness research, that kind of thing. And
Okay.
I've been working on launching Reframe, which is a community for people who want to take care of their health based on neuroscience and Buddhist frameworks.
Nice.
And just putting I've been going through this cycle of like hyperfixation and then
Yep.
like dropping the ball and then like consoling myself with AI, as I've just mentioned.
Is there a way to reframe dropping
Uh-huh.
the ball as rest?
I think there is a digestion process because what happened was so every I don't think you even know this. So about every 2 or 3 months ago or so, I meet up with the listening squad. So
No.
it's me and two friends who took this course on listening, taught by this coachy friend of ours.
Okay.
And like, and so I actually have this like almost like quarterly update of what I was really worried about.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that apparently 3 months ago, I was working really hard on like making Reframe happen. And I was doing these live streams, remember?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
With co-working and stuff. And then
Yeah.
I was like, dang, I remember that Kristen was working really hard on it. And now I'm trying to pick back up on that version of myself.
You did make it happen. It's not
Yes.
like,
Yes.
fully formed and, like a bajillion people are in it, but like
Mhm.
you did succeed what 3 months ago Kristen was trying to do in that it
Mhm.
exists and people are active in the Discord.
Yes, though not as active as in the beginning because we're kind of in this like wrapping up phase, right? Before
Right.
now, I'm gonna push it a little the instructions a little bit more with more foundation. Let's just say it was really loosey goosey in the beginning because I wanted to see how people would organically talk about their health.
Yeah.
But I think like if I were to throw someone in a Discord right now, they would just be confused. So I have
Yeah.
to have some framework, but like. I came up with this while like watching Yuhang Fish on this weekend,
Nice.
where I personally don't love the idea of frameworks because of my own inner rebellion, right? And
Sure.
I'm like, I don't want a 3-step or a 5-step whatever to do something. So
I mean,
I
that
made
is kind of weird. I'll throw it back in your corner that like most people like being told what to do, even if they act like they don't. But sorry, continue.
yes, I know. And then like frameworks are loving containers, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the issue is that I didn't want to be hypocritical because a lot of
Sure.
my like, hypothesis is that why does Brian Johnson make us feel uncomfortable with his like,
Plastic
don't die and
skin, zombie
extremely
face.
correct and his vampiric looking appearance.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually all that is just dressing. Like the deep discomfort is the fact that he introduces more complexity. It's sort of like that's the cost you pay, right? Like if you want to live forever, you have to optimize everything down to these dials,
Okay.
which means that you're going to have to spend more time and like have less agency over how you spend your time.
Yeah.
So
Progress
therefore,
requires work. Yeah.
yeah, so there's a cost to it, right? I don't. I think his methods probably are like relatively effective. It's just
Yeah.
that there is a psychological, emotional cost to it.
Yeah.
And so I thought that if I, have a framework that's just as complex as his, then I'm just replacing myself with Ryan Johnson. Like
I,
that's the whole purpose. So instead, the framework steps are self-dissolving. Like
what does that
the
mean?
last step the last step is that you're supposed to minimize what you're doing so that by doing this framework, you're not actually adding another step to your life. It's
Okay.
almost like, those KonMari decluttering sort of steps. It's like ultimately you need to
Con-
simplify. Sorry, Marie Kondo.
oh, yeah. I was just like, wait, those are the phonemes, but that's not what I know the person as. But
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Well, of course she branded her method after herself.
Right.
And in Japanese names they start with the last name. So ultimately it's the same concept as like trying to like declutter your home, right? Or to like tidy up your home. If you
Uh-huh.
have a lot of objects, you're gonna take forever freaking ever to clean up
True.
your home.
True, true, true.
So instead, I feel like with every like health step like something to take care of yourself, it should ideally make your life simpler, not more complicated. And that
Got
is
it.
the hard part. It's like, how can you like, take care of yourself more while spending less time and less energy on it?
How can
And
you?
that's
That
really
sounds
what it's for.
interesting. Actually,
Yes.
first of all, let me catch up with some comments. Thank you. My mic does match my shirt. This is my new shirt that Kristen didn't compliment me on, which I'm very disappointed about.
It's Rangoon.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
a
I
crab
thought it was
rangoon
just a
shirt.
crab.
And then, yeah, Crazy Frog. I did have a startup. It was no stress newsletters for creators. Maybe comes back in a few years. I don't know. But it just ended up not being. The big platforms on the internet make it very expensive to ingest content from, and we just couldn't make the math work in terms of like automating the creation of newsletters for creators. Unfortunately. And Blobson, yes, you are right. There is a humankind candle in the background. We are fueled by humankind candles on this show. What's up, Cool Beans?
Is Blobson Pugson?
I think so, but I'm not sure. And Bronte, appreciate it. I'm pretty sure they're agreeing that I'm weird or agreeing that you're weird. So either way, they're right. All right. So Kristen, how do
Thank
we
you for
simplify?
appreciating our collective weirdness.
How do we simplify our life? Should I chop off my arm so I don't have to worry about it?
If it simplifies your life, I think that is like something you could do. I wouldn't recommend it.
Kristen recommended it. You heard her recommend it before she didn't recommend it. So y'all chop off your arms.
But only because there is no way in this current universe and dimension where chopping off your arm will simplify your life. So I'm very confident that the first criteria will not be met.
There's 25% less appendages to deal with.
Yes, and then how are you gonna wipe your butt?
With the other hand, oh my gosh, Kristen, think outside the box.
The
But no,
baby
for real,
boy over
how do
here.
we like? Is there a quick what is one thing I can do to simplify my life?
In terms of your health,
Yeah,
um,
I got one that
what
I
do you
don't
worry
endorse.
about? Or
What do I
what?
worry
Like I
about?
remember you had your back pain issue, which
Yeah,
is self resolved.
like I kind of worry about. I'm worrying less and less about like the decay of time because like you can't do anything about it. I think what I'm worried about is the range of things that I can eat getting kind of like less, but I can't know that until I eat the thing and then like feel sick afterwards. You know what I mean? It's
So
like
you're like, let me experiment with every Dunkin' Donut variation.
well, no. So like I know that like the Hostess category of baked goods are not like I can have a cosmic brownie and then I'm gonna feel hungover a few hours later. And so like I'm trying to figure out like what are the things that I can eat that are maybe elevated a little bit above like boy protein slop bowls, but also not like a ton of work. You know what I mean?
What's wrong with boy protein slop bowls? Actually,
Oh, well, I
I feel
mean,
like I'm very pro that.
like I think that one, people dunk on them for sure. But people are hoity-toity about it. But I also think that like variety is a little bit of an accessible luxury that like if I could figure out, I don't know, maybe it's putting green onions on it or something like that. Maybe that is the solution. But like I worry about like actually I'll say this. I worry about all of the things that I like to eat, like protein slop bowls. One day I just don't like them anymore and I don't know what to do. That
Oh,
worries
I
me.
see. The hyperfixation will bite you in the butt in the long term, kind of thing.
Yeah. Also, the internet totally like. I like chicken tenders. I like mac and cheese. I like protein slop bowls. Like I have caught strays on the internet for just like passively liking those things, not in an incel-y type way.
Oh gosh. Well, it depends, right? Like, cause I went through a period where I was trying every Tendy brand possible, And there is a wide variety in terms of like macros for the attendees. Of course, the ones that taste good are sorry, the ones that taste bad are the ones with the better macros.
Yeah, of course.
So there is some taste, textural compromise you need to make.
You want to know the best setup I've ever seen for chicken tenders for like every dinner type lifestyle?
What is it?
My high school girlfriend's dad had a backdoor deal with a Zaxby's chicken distributor.
Oh,
And so he just bought like a pallet of Zaxby's chicken tenders pre-Zaxby'sified, so they're like, not breaded or anything.
is it actually just Cisco brand
No,
chicken?
like I think they have like a special finishing process that they have. But he would
Oh,
just
okay.
like buy, a freezer full of those every month, and I was like, dude,
This is
I
the
need.
bodybuilding one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. He was a bodybuilder, and so like
Okay.
that was a good lifestyle. And I think we got
Mhm.
Jenna in the chat. It's the PM.
Yeah.
There's no username, which is interesting. Kristen,
So anon.
yeah,
No name at all.
Ain't- I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
Yeah.
Kristen, are you a geek, a mop, or a sociopath?
It depends on which society circle I'm in. The first two. So I don't like. I like how you put you're a secret sociopath. I feel like I don't think I can even try. That's the sad part. As we will
Yep.
discuss later on, one of the strategy of being slightly evil. I actually just asked ChatGPT, "How can I be slightly evil?" And it was just a sad circular argument where I
What
really
was
couldn't go
it?
anywhere.
Was it like, "Don't be evil, senpai"? Like, what did it do?
Well, I mean, it would suggest all these things, but I'm like, but I can't do that. So, so we can discuss that. But like, what about you? Like, do you generally categorize yourself into one of these categories? Oh, by the way, MOPs stands for Members of Public, which the article author is David Chapman, who is British, and,
Yep.
and so he said that's a very common British term, and that the other terms are casuals or tourists within a subculture.
Yeah, so like geeks, casuals, and then sociopaths. When we'll get into the essay in a second. But to answer the question, I think I have LARPed as a sociopath for chunks of my life. I'd like to think they were mitigated with humanity or like bits of humanity. And for a period of time in high school, I legitimately thought I was a sociopath. Like, I would Google, what are sociopathic tendencies? And I'd be like, oh, I kind of feel some of these. I kind of feel others of these. And like looking back, if you are Googling, are you a sociopath? You have enough empathy to be anxious about this thing. That probably means you're not a sociopath. But like, 14-year-old Cameron didn't really like think that through. But generally, and more so recently, I've been re-embracing my geekness. And I think that in some things I come across as like a casual or a mop, but as a way to not feel pressure to be the geek about the thing, and then as soon as I have enough proficiency in it, I like transition to geek role like fairly quickly, I think.
So it's over proficiency and not out of interest.
Well, I mean, I think that there's like an anxiety of I call myself a geek more and more, geek nerd, whatever, as a way of kind of like taking back, because like I used to, get outsidered in high school and younger, yeah, and so like being a geek wasn't a cool thing back then, right? Like it wasn't like a thing that was as socially acceptable, especially growing up in the South. But going from that to going into the military, where like being a nerd has like the jock stereotype characteristics of like we don't want nerds, we want warrior type energy, and so like the kind of like toxically masculine like view of anti-intellectualism. Like for a long time, I was reflexively anti-nerd as a self-defense mechanism, so that I didn't get like othered by this group that I was like doing a career in the army.
So what nerdy characteristics did you have to hide?
I mean, reading books.
Ew.
Like I had an old boss that like literally ranted to me, and I was like his aide for a year. I had to listen to him rant about how we don't need any more damn Athenians in the army. We need more Spartans, and just dumb sentiment of like you want people that don't think critically about like pretty complex systems and challenges in
Mm-hmm.
favor of, in his mind, people that could do more push-ups, which
Mm-hmm.
is funny because he was not in good shape. He just like kind of
Was it like a projecting thing?
yeah, I mean, like some old men really fetishize like virile youth, like virile young men, because they are so anxious that they're not that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it was one of those cases. And so but it doesn't change the fact that like it was the leadership of the organization that I was in that was like explicitly anti-intellectual, and like in one, because he would do like round tables with the young lieutenants. One lieutenant was asking questions about a book that was maybe more relevant to like a captain or a major than a lieutenant. Clausewitz's On War, one of the most famous kind of like war thinking
Mm-hmm.
books, and he's just like, it's just kind of like a you don't need to worry about that, turn your brain off kind of energy. And so like not being a geek for me was like a very important, okay, I need to like hide this thing so that I can live my life in a way that is less painful.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but in the past like 5 years, I've kind of re-embraced that.
And I feel like the world has changed too. Like I also grew up where in high school it's not cool to be a nerd. Like
Yeah. Give me 1 second.
there was definitely a social hierarchy going on. And yeah, okay, baby, you wrote, can't lie. Growing up, I wanted to be one of the cool girls than a nerd. Yeah, exactly. It's like no one goes, yes, surely I would like to be a nerd when they're growing up, right? So and yes, solar punk living / cool beans. Did you have a cat pillow too? I guess this is commenting on Cameron's very cute cat pillow. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure this is a later purchase.
What?
Your cat pillow.
We got those we got them put together for a photo booth. We had one at our wedding, and so we had this, and we had a couple other ones too. They were good props.
What do the cats think of their own shape cat pillow? Do they identify with it?
They cuddle with it, but they like, I don't know, it's just like any other pillow. They don't like recognize it as like a cat.
Ooh, this person with no name
Yep.
said, USMC Brat here. So that's Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Reporting in that as young civilian adult had exposure to a bunch of young officers and they were fit, of course, but also smart.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
very
you know,
different from the
a lot.
stereotype.
Well, I mean, like the issue isn't that they're not smart, although there are some that are dumb as a box of rocks. Like the issue is that the culture doesn't want them to be smart until a later period of time in their life. But that's not how brains work. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't not think about things and then at some point start thinking about things and be good at them, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
have to be thinking about things for a long period of time, and then eventually you end up being thoughtful.
Yeah.
Uh, that
Let's describe the general shape of the article
yeah.
and what it's about.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
the
Sorry.
article explains this phenomenon, which I think most of us have observed, right? Usually you start off with some people who are super nerds or super geeks in a scene. They're super into what they're doing. It starts off quite niche, and like there is this little culture that's forming. And then eventually, this culture would either take off or die. And if it does take off, then people who are new to the culture would come in and try to enjoy as well. They don't take it to the level of obsession as the initial group. That's also sort of fine. So that's when the MOPs come in. But then eventually the sociopaths would smell blood in the water, and they will also want to come in and join in the fun by masquerading as the geeks.
They
So
smell money in the water.
yes, money or power or
Yeah.
something that is self-serving. And they figured, okay, if I pretend to be one of the geeks, then I'm able to join into this culture and be able to extract value out of this whole system. And eventually, this whole culture, because of these like dynamics that are going on, would become even more diluted or become corporate captured. And the geeks are sad. And eventually, the whole thing collapses, and then the cycle begins again.
Yeah. Like at some point, the culture gets infiltrated enough by these sociopaths that the geeks who have no antibodies against these people that are kind of like walking and talking mostly right, but they can tell that they're not like them, but they don't know why. The sociopaths get the attention of kind of like the broader group, which is they call the MOPs. And as a result, they extract what's there to be extracted, and then they leave when that's gone, or it's exhausted, or it goes mainstream, and it's not weird enough for the geeks to like anymore. And so they're left clueless and sad and poor.
Yeah. So, and I feel like this first part is pretty self-evident, right? Like we've seen this happen over and over again.
I actually disagree. Like I didn't until I read this. I had been in like a handful of different groups where I was just like, I thought we had something special, and then it like got off, and I truly did not understand it, or I didn't feel like I had a handle on it until I read this. Like it wasn't self-evident to me, but like maybe you're just savvier about that social dynamic.
I don't, to be honest, I feel like what happened is likely I've read some VGR articles. Which is the Venkatesh Rao articles that are referenced in the later half of this essay, where he talks about the Office, right, the Gervais effect or something like that, and there he alludes to there being sociopaths. And I think what happens, I got exposed to that article even earlier, and was like, wait a minute, this does seem to be generally true.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think we mentioned the article title is Geeks, Mops, and Sociopaths on the Meaningness blog.
Yes, by David Chapman.
Are you like, have you gone through one of these cycles? Like, do you have like a story to recount of IRL?
IRL, not so much. I
Okay.
think it's mostly from like places that we hung out on the internet, right?
Yeah.
So this is again the obvious age difference between you and me is revealed. But like back in the 2000s,
Yeah.
there were internet blogs and forums and all these things before they were corporate captured. And they would go through these cycles. So for example, like Metafilter, it used to be a really big thing, and it used to be like a fun bunch of geeks who would talk about these like, you know, little esoteric parts of the internet. You would have loved it. It was
Yeah, I
like kind
would've.
of like back when, you know, maybe even when Reddit was good or something like that. It was pretty much the original forum where people
Yeah.
would share links. But like eventually it went through many cycles of like, you know, mop infiltration. I'm probably one of the mops, to be honest.
Yeah.
And like they had a lot of governance issues. Actually, I
Yeah,
feel
so,
like
like, what
I
happened?
could learn a lot. They were kind of run by a nonprofit, and then there's a lot of complaints about the nonprofit. In terms of like moderation, there's a lot of like, you know, the unhappiness that arose from that, because it's one of the tensions of the internet, right? For something to be good, it actually is secretly like, you know, janitored and cleaned up by a lot of mods in the background.
Fanatics
were-
in the article,
Exactly, the
like,
fanatics.
vocabulary.
And like there's a lot of like, you know, disagreements over the modding, you know, policies and all of that, because as you know, that can vary so much. And of course, there might be sociopaths involved as well. Like, I don't know the exact lore anymore.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But like eventually, like it wasn't helped by the fact that then other parts of the internet took off, right? Like that's when, you know, Facebook and all these things started cropping up. So then people's attention were also like divested into these channels that at the time we thought was, you know, the bee's knees, and look what it turned into now.
Was there a sociopath in there that you were like, oh, this is like a very clear exploitation of it?
I think, like, from my perspective, it wasn't explicit sociopathy, but more like really strong political stances,
Okay.
which, again, depending on which side you're on, you might consider sociopathy. But then
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
it was a place where like then everything got overly policed to the point where people feel like they are stepping on, like walking on eggshells and couldn't say anything anymore.
Prototypical cancel culture.
Yes, exactly. I think cancel culture actually came from Metafilter.
Yeah,
So it was actually,
interesting.
yeah, it's swinging in that direction, and that just resulted in the good people leaving. And
Interesting.
what's really funny is that now I'm in a Discord with a bunch of friends, and I only after a few years found out that we all came from Metafilter at a certain point, and
You
we
could
were like, oh,
smell each other across the internet.
yeah, because there's a certain liberal way of thinking that is
Mhm.
really evident from when you were in Metafilter from that period.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
So
Interesting.
it is still remnants of that culture, but that in itself in that place no longer exists.
Gotcha.
How
My
about you?
s- so my I think best IRL example is I've mentioned this before. I was a weird and I was like a music kid. Like I found a lot of joy in finding like the indie band or eventually like the emo or hardcore or scene bands.
Mhm.
And I remember very vividly uh, finding Panic at the Disco like before they became Panic at the Disco. And I didn't like they were not like a top tier band in my mind. I
Okay.
thought I thought they were a
So
kind of
you are talking about Brandon Urie. Like this is
yes,
not
Brent.
like a
Yeah.
oh.
What?
Oh, I thought you meant it was a band that sounded like Panic at the Disco, but
No.
you're talking about the actual band.
No, actual Panic at the Disco, like first album drop. And like I found them and I was like, oh, this is kind of like an upper mid version of all these other stuff that I liked.
Mhm.
And I, kind of like mentioned it. Like I had I didn't really have a ton of like music friends. Like this was me alone on, Internet Explorer in 2007 or whatever. But actually, it was probably earlier than that. It was like mid 2000s. And so I like found this, I listened to it, 100 times. I like talked about it to my closest kind of like normie non-music friend. I was like, hey, listen to this. I think you'll like this.
Mhm.
And, about a year after I introduced it to her, she let me know because she had her foot in all of like the other kind of like higher social status groups, that Panic at the Disco was transitioning to like cool kid band in terms of like our dumb middle school, early high school social dynamics. And so like there was this thing that like I found interesting and I explicitly had the geek thought of like, oh, this is like a more accessible version of like the weirdo stuff that I like, some of which I post in the Discord. And like I very much saw how like the aspects of the aesthetic, tight pants, like the guy liner or whatever, started getting adopted by these people for the explicit like use case of, and that came like trying to get a girlfriend as like an eighth grader or whatever. And I was like, I watched this thing happen and I watched kind of the Flanderization of this emo-esque culture. And I was like, oh, whoa, this is weird because like all the bands that were like kind of originated a lot of the sounds, like no one cared about. They cared about the like buttered toast version of it, not like the like fancy omelet version of it. If that makes sense. Any
So
sense?
emo got captured by the cool kids
Yeah.
in your school.
Yeah, for a period of time, and then it kind of like it was less emo and more like skater kid culture, right? Like because
Oh,
you used to,
soft emo.
yeah. I mean, like if somebody showed up wearing Vans and they couldn't skate, you'd call them a poser, and like, but
Mhm.
that eventually kind of became the standard. We don't really, I mean, I don't know. I'm not in high schools, thank goodness. That's creepy, but I get the sense that that doesn't really happen as much. Maybe because the idea of subcultures are dead, which is what the article was talking about. Do you think that?
I don't know. I feel like we need a representative young person.
Yeah.
Perhaps in the chat, if you are identifying as Gen Z, please let us know. Are subcultures still a thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's
I
a
will
hard
clip that
question.
so that it will distribute more into the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fundamentally hard question because you got to like
Mhm.
identify what a subculture is. But I remember I used to go to like metal shows in the local strip mall venue, and then like mosh on like Fridays and Saturdays, and then would make uh, pilgrimages into Atlanta every once in a while for like big kind of like mosh things. And I would commune with other kind of emo scene kids through MySpace. Like we would like
Oh
find
yeah.
each other through there
Hmm.
and kind of coordinate to meet up in these other places. I don't know if that kind of happens like perversely being
It does. It's a cruise. Do you know about the emo cruise?
no, what
It's
is
full
this?
of adults our age.
Well, so that if it's our age, then
Imagine
it's not
like an
happening.
Olivia Cruz sort of situation, but instead it's for emo music.
I
For
that
people
just
who
sounds
are
like
now our age.
yeah.
Actually, I feel like you and Marissa will unironically love that.
I mean, Marissa probably wouldn't, but I would have to balance liking the aesthetic and
Uh-huh.
interacting with other people, which I don't want to do.
Well, but this your mosh pit buddies.
No, I mean, I just like even that I just recoil from now because it's not fun anymore. Um,
Aw.
there's a line in there about at some point mops say that they don't want to pay for things anymore because capitalism is bad and also they forgot their wallet.
Mhm.
That
Oh,
left
yeah.
that left an impression on me. Did it do anything for you?
It did. In both ways, right? Of
Yeah.
like, when have I like, not paid for things and also being annoyed as a creator, right?
So is that an inevitable problem?
That's where this be slightly evil part comes in for me.
Okay.
Because I'm like, fine, maybe the sociopaths are better at monetization because that is their goal.
For sure.
Therefore, they think about these systems a lot more. Whereas I tend to be like, let me make this neat thing. And then let me copy what other people have done to charge for this thing. Which I don't think is the most thoughtful way of doing it. I'm sure there are better ways to think about changing the system. And however,
Is
I just haven't seen any good execution beyond the Lindy tried and true.
well, hold on. Like, is making a living wage cheating the system? Like, I don't understand what you said.
Oh, what I'm trying to say is that like there are so many ways in which creators can make money, right? Like you and I've seen the reports. Like there, if there's sponsorships, there is like Patreon type models. Um,
Do you think there's enough or not enough?
I'm unsure whether there are only these models because they are Lindy and these are the only ones that really work, or
Hmm.
whether we haven't tried hard enough to come up with something new. And
Gotcha.
I feel like the sociopaths, because they are trying to extract value, they do spend more time thinking of what are new ways to extract value.
Yeah.
And therefore, they're better at like making money.
Right.
And I think like that's where the VGR's article "Be Slightly Evil," which is referenced in this article, talks about that, right? It's like knowing this is what sociopaths do, how can you number one be aware of it so you have some inoculation against these methods, and number two, what can you actually learn from that?
Yeah.
Though the funny thing is that VGR himself like has very traditional ways of monetizing,
Yeah.
like.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to get people to pay for anything because
Mhm.
people don't want to spend money, which like
Mhm.
reasonable impulse. Getting them to spend money on something they don't immediately understand is even
Mhm.
harder. And so like you use patterns that they recognize because it
Yeah.
like lowers one of the barriers to like actually buying something.
Yeah. Exactly. So what do you think about that?
So I think that the challenge with mops and sociopaths is that neither party really cares about the thing.
Hmm.
And so when you don't care about the thing, you will operate in a way that kind of optimizes for your benefit and often at the expense of the thing. And so like the reason why, early, breakcore music or whatever, like early DJs in a space kind of sometimes share samples. They like make stuff for each other and they like cultivate an environment of like the free spreading of these musical ideas without really worrying about, credits on tracks and things like that. Because it just makes more cool music. But the second you start doing that, the bad actors can come in and start like sampling it and taking it to the place where like they can profit off of it. And so you end up doing all of the incubation work without any of the ultimate reward. That's basically what the article is saying. With MOPs not wanting to pay for anything, that makes sense because as soon as the like novelty of the thing wears off, they're on to the next thing. And so like, and there's always a next thing. And so like figuring out how to capture that for the finite amount of attention time you have of that user feels really bad for a person who doesn't have a mental model of this person doesn't care about the thing that I care about, but they do kind of like shit like ships in the night. They're on board for a little while. And so you can maybe get like $10-$50 out of them to help make the ecosystem continue on. Interesting. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I think maybe I was going to address the same thing. Like, I want to say hi to Wage King. Thanks for joining us. And also, Okay Baby. This says
about
that
to fight.
Subcultures, as a representative of a young person, subcultures are still very much a thing, only now they sort of shape-shifted, laughing, crying emoji, for instance. Traditional labels go like goth, punk, Kristen, emo, but now it's like, yo, clean girl, me-core. Vintage Y2K. Okay. Yeah, I already feel my wrinkles going away from saying these words.
Well, okay. Actually, sorry. Keep going. I'm gearing up.
Yeah, so I feel like this is ringing a bell to me now. Yeah, on TikTok, right? As Cameron sends me these, and Sam sends me these TikTok clips that make me go, huh? What's going on? It's usually something core. So there are these like micro subcultures happening on TikTok, it seems. And a lot of them have to be based on aesthetic because you're doing a visual medium.
Yep. Yeah. So throwing this up here so that people can see what the heck we're talking about for a second.
Yes.
This is not a subculture.
Oh.
That is a vibe. That is an energy. That is a like facsimile of a culture. Like the idea that you dress a certain way and you make a TikTok where you like feel like you're part of a thing for a little while, but don't actually incorporate the other aspects of the culture, which involves like interpersonal interaction with other people, rituals, habits, kind of like these sociological bond strengthening things. Like all you're basically doing is LARPing like outfits for a little while. Now, obviously, you have to look at any individual thing to figure out like where it meets the bar. But like, I got younger cousins that I've talked to, and like, just because you carry around a water bottle for a few weeks doesn't mean you're part of a subculture. Like, and maybe
but isn't it part of a wider subculture of TikTok mimicry?
So I would buy that. I think that like being part of being part of TikTok culture is potentially a subculture in and of itself. People call it being hyper online, terminally online, whatever. That's a fundamentally different thing than feeling some sort of like deep-seated connection with this thing. Like as kind of a comparison,
I feel like you're being a geek explaining subcultures, gatekeeping subcultures.
I mean, I love this stuff because this, like, I studied myself and everybody else in my life for, a decade plus because I just didn't understand why other people did stuff. But like,
do you understand now?
I don't know, man.
I'm not sure.
Like, I don't like half the time. I don't even know if you can understand anything ever. And so, yeah, Alexander nailed it. The point is like there's a reason why the joke for all these millennial emo kids is, Mom, it wasn't just a phase. Like it was a fundamental part of your identity for like not a couple weeks, not a couple months, like probably years of your life. You did this thing, and you did this thing to a degree that like it cost you. Like it cost you to operate through the world or like move through the world this way compared to other things. Maybe this is too gatekeepy. Maybe I just have a different mental model of how sociological things happen. But like, I mean, I posted this the other day. Like, I want to do things for longer, and the
Oh yeah,
reason
that was
is,
actually surprisingly controversial.
yeah, like I think it was controversial because it hit at a thing that a lot of people feel, which is like there are more things than ever before, and so we all have the same 24 hours in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably, if you're wealthy, you have more of the 24 hours, but like ultimately there's a finite amount of time that you have. And so if you find 24 awesome things, you can only kind of spend 1 hour on them each day if you do nothing else in your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'm a big proponent of you can't actually understand the thing that you're doing without more time put into it than you're probably used to putting in on things, because everything in the world is pushing us to get distracted by another thing, because it's a lot easier to sell somebody $101 things than
Mm-hmm.
like two or three $50 things.
Mm-hmm.
And so we live in this like perpetually like not investing enough time to get attached to things lifestyle, which is like a huge bummer.
Yeah. And then Cool Beans asks, is nostalgia culture or lack thereof? I think in its healthy form, it could be a revival of a culture. And recently I was like flipping through this book called World After Capital by Albert Wenger, who's a VC, who's on Farcaster as well. And he talks about how, like, after, if capital is available to everyone with AI and all that, like, then attention is the only capital left. So in that case, I feel like having subculture discipline then becomes more valuable, because then you're able to demonstrate the depth with which you can cultivate a certain aesthetic and culture, and that itself accrues value. Well, at least that's what I hope things will become.
I don't follow the jump. Also, I'm reflexively skeptical of venture capitalists writing
I
books.
know, I know. I shouldn't
I
have
don't.
opened with that. I
Yeah.
should be like, someone on the internet
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, no, no.
I.
But the attention economy thing is not like developed by him, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
tons of people have brought that up. But it's
Yeah.
sort of like, okay, if like, and we can clearly see, right? Like you and I have been more aware lately of the ability of certain platforms and places to capture our attention, and how
Yeah.
like it doesn't serve us.
Yeah.
So
No.
therefore, like our ability to re-centralize our attention and like use it to develop a certain subculture of your choice, to me, like, is the biggest value there is.
Yeah.
Because it's like the discipline of not just being distracted by the 24 other things that are being served to us, you know?
Yeah. A lot of the things we want to make need a slow cooker, not an air fryer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like that's the mode that we're approaching some stuff with.
Mm-hmm.
I think on the topic of nostalgia, it's really important to figure out what the context that the nostalgia emotion is in,
Mm-hmm.
because a person that just feels nostalgia for something in their past, like, I don't think that's culture or lack thereof. I think that they have a memory that they have an emotional attachment to, and they're just like feeling that somatically. I
Yes.
I think more people feel nostalgia as cope
Mm-hmm.
when they don't have something right now that is making them feel good. And
Yes.
so it's kind of like a second order effect of a potentially lack of culture in their life.
Mm-hmm.
I also think nostalgia is a weapon of capitalism from sociopaths that understand they can sell you something by baiting you with an emotional response. And so
Yeah.
all three of those things I think are true and valid and can only be understood through the context through which you're feeling that emotion.
That's true. Everything is so insidious.
How
So,
is an air fryer also a
I was
slow
going to
cooker?
comment on that. I have the same one.
What?
Okay. Well,
Huh?
this is going to turn. Well, this is not sponsored, but yes, the Ninja system. It's like a slow cooker that's also a pressure cooker that's also an air fryer. I have that same system.
That's
It can also
crazy.
make yogurt.
Technology. That's crazy.
Yes, not sponsored, but it truly is pretty good. Except for the fact, I don't know whether Cool Beans you got the same memo. Mine just got a note that said that do not use the lid; it will explode. So they're supposed to send me a new lid, but now I can't make my beans.
I feel like if anybody ever says explode in a kitchen appliance, I'm never
Mhm.
using that thing again. Even if I get a new lid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Cool Beans, be careful. I don't know whether you have the
Yikes.
same system or not.
Yikes. Okay.
Okay. So how can we like inoculate ourselves, right? That's where I feel very torn, and that's why I had to use AI because I didn't have time to read the other article. Um, of being slightly evil, which is a very like VGR style of thing. So VGR is Venkatesh Rao, who's also on podcaster and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
has a has a purposefully pessimistic view of life.
I mean, he's a little bit of a grump, which is like
Mhm.
an archetype. It's an important archetype to have in your society, a grumpy uncle.
Yeah. And he says that we should learn from these sociopaths, sort of like the Robert Greene, like whatever, what's the number? 48?
48
Maybe?
Laws of Power, yeah.
Oh, 48 or Laws of Power, like
Classic
learning these.
manosphere book.
Yeah,
I
and
actually like it as a reference. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think it's like as a factual reference. I find it really useful as a guide to doing things. Nightmare.
so some of the points from this like be slightly evil are like be strategically not nice. Be meta rational, play characters, all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Which is
I,
fine, but I feel like it's tautological for me because it's like if I can do these things, I would have done them already.
that's interesting. I think. Sorry, I'm burping. I th- I think that's actually like the third thing, like the first order response to this article, this kind of situation is to like be vigilant. It doesn't mean be paranoid and immediately distrust everybody that comes into your group. But for me, in my previous social groups, including some that we're still in, I just didn't think about it at all. And as a result, I was susceptible to these folks when they came in, walking like a duck and talking like a duck when in fact they were a snake. Not to be too dramatic about it. And so like once you get burned a couple times, you can have either like the trauma response of hating everybody, or you can kind of be like, okay, every time there's a bunch of people together, there's going to be a variety of like emotional like types and energies and intentions. And so like I think just being aware of it is a 70% of solving the problem. You know what I mean?
Sure. I agree. I feel like I'm lucky in that I was pretty aware from the get go, just because
Yeah.
I'm pretty vigilant
Yeah,
slash
yeah, yeah.
paranoid. But I feel like for me, the important part is like learning how to help good people thrive, right? And for example, in your story about DJs and sampling, I think that's so common, right? Like good people give away stuff for free, and
Yeah.
then they're taken advantage of, or like good people don't ask for as many resources compared to sociopaths who would just like extract the entire thing and be like, screw
Because they
you.
don't feel like they deserve it. They feel like they're asking too much of other people. All
Right.
these like nice person responses.
Exactly. And I feel like, I'm caught in these same, routes as well a lot of times, right? So it's more important to help good people not be pulled back by their goodness.
So you had these responses that you were looking at, and you're like, okay, I can't do these things. I would maybe supplement it with like not framing it as being slightly evil, because I think that actually turns out like it's a great title to get views on the internet. I think it isn't the right mindset for a lot of like good people, creative people that make stuff, because they don't want to even be a little bit evil.
Yeah.
I think like a better way to think about it is be assertive with the things that you care about, which is still hard if that's not your inclination or you haven't like really trained for it. But it's a lot more attainable, I think, than being evil, even a little bit. Like, does that framing help you at all?
It does. But is that in terms of being assertive against a sociopath or be assertive in carving out your own territory? Because I
It's
think that was also the other part where, like, I personally think that it's easier to then just, decentralize and build a new thing than it is to fight against a captured area by sociopaths.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think the assertiveness isn't for or against other actors. It's in pursuit of the promotion and protection of the thing that you care about. Because ultimately, at the core of any geek culture is a thing, capital T thing. And so if it is a musical thing, like, it's okay, is what I'm doing going to like be for the benefit of this group? Maybe being kind of a dick to that person who comes in and he's just like charging, like he's selling albums of other people's work. Like, yeah, let's be a dick to that guy because that's bad for the thing. Or it's like, hey, we just found this like brand new artist. Like, let's invite them to our meetup because we know that they're going to be a good person. Or we think that they're going to be a good person. Obviously, it's never as easy as like we know for sure. I think for me, as a person who kind of swings between, as we talked about, swings between a little like social justicey or like I want good things to happen because like there is a right and wrong and a good way to go throughout the world. Like, if you make it about the thing and not about me against somebody else, it's easier to kind of do it because the right thing is whatever the thing that you like don't want to do because you don't want to be mean to somebody else. Cool Beans, Solar Punk, I think like occasionally being an asshole is shorthand for you got to do what you got to do to protect the things that you care about.
I feel like the way I do it is more soft. I do tend to nudge people. And I sometimes I wonder if people even notice that I'm doing it.
I doubt it because nobody cares.
Yeah.
We can practice, we don't have to do it on the show, but like I have no problem with you practicing being mean to me and then me being mean back. That's like half of officer training.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like you have hard conversations with hard people, right? Like the person who like I've had serious conversations about people that like maybe weren't quite there, but were like definitely domestic violence adjacent. And like, you have to freaking talk to that person and be like, hey, like you're jacked up and you need to fix yourself. And it's not a discussion. It's you are wrong and you need to fix it. And I've had like a bajillion versions of that conversation. And I've helped teach other people how to have that conversation. Not every tool needs to be the first thing that you reach for in your toolbox, but it's always good to have.
So, but doesn't that turn into engaging with every troll on the internet really quickly? Like, I feel like there is also this trade-off that we need to consider where, like, a lot of times I don't feel it's worth it because I don't think that person's going to change their mind. So then I would just say something and then leave.
So I would say that being the first impulse is a self-defense mechanism against engaging with, hey, I probably at some point will need to have a hard conversation. Like, I agree with the sentiment, but if that's the first response, then like your knee jerk is avoidance, which like it's important to know. It might be the right answer in the situation, but it's not necessarily always the right answer. And the thing that we're practicing is when it is the right answer to like call somebody out on their bullshit.
There's plenty of that on the internet.
But I think it's more important, like are we going to engage with a flame war in like a comment section? Probably not. If somebody comes into our Discord and starts like, kicking things over
because
metaphorically.
like I consider that as like, the container that I'm taking care of.
Yeah.
So I think that's the tension is like I'm not as interested in like, fighting every fight that's outside of what I consider a territory I'm taking care of.
Yeah.
But like it seems important for me to try to like grow the boundaries of this territory so that more people can be invited if they want to come in. And then, we'll boot the snakes out.
Yeah. I do think that we are entering a marchlands period or like a borderlands period of the internet where there isn't clean kingdoms anymore. And so like if you want anything important to you to grow, you do have to be mentally prepared to meet people on like quasi neutral ground, like the areas between countries that didn't used to have clean borders. And I like fighting. And so like that's an aspect of this that's important to keep in mind.
Do you though? I feel like you don't really fight that much
No, I
on the internet.
don't because I know that I will rabbit hole into infinite internet arguments because guess what 13-year-old Cameron used to do?
Oh,
Like me saying it out loud that I like fighting on the internet is my inoculation to remind me to not like to resist that impulse in situations where it doesn't make sense.
so a friend of ours, Art Lou, said the internet is for cats because it's for people who do what they want, whereas when dogs take over, it's unnatural. So because dogs do tricks for treats. What do you think about that statement?
I mean, all models are wrong, some models are useful. I think the internet probably started for cats, but dogs are the ones that spend money, and so the internet is probably for dogs now.
Oh. So and going back to spend money point though, I feel like that's where like us included, is it because there's only a limited number of category of things we want to spend money on, like, memberships and merch?
Sorry, say that again.
Like we talk about one of the struggles, right? Is that like the MOPs won't spend money, but they do, right? But generally, people do still buy things. It's just that
Yep.
you and I don't tend to buy those things.
Right.
So is that like a limitation though? Like how can we think about like what do people willingly spend money on so that we can displace some of that? And to me, like people do spend money on like status. Like I think of various like things, even merch, right? Like they're all like various kinds of status. But what other ways in which are people spending money willingly that if we're slightly evil can think about?
Honestly, I don't know what you're asking me. Like, I don't know. Patreon subscriptions, I guess, is the thing that you're asking for.
Yeah, like monetization models that are not sociopathic.
I mean, like every opportunity to make money is somewhere on the spectrum of exploiting somebody else for your benefit. The idea is you make things that you are proud of enough that it doesn't actually feel like exploitation when somebody is spending them.
So when you are making objects, 3D printed objects, what is being exploited here?
People's affinity with Farcaster and not having physical totems to show it, and the way that because like there's a ton of 3D printed crap on the internet, and so like what we did to feel good enough about it to start the process of potentially selling these is by putting enough detail into them and enough care and enough precision into the craft that it's not crap. It's like something that is a fun, useful fidget to have on your desk. And so like the aspect of craft in whatever you do is kind of the creator's best guard against feeling crappy. Unfortunately, that means creators a lot often have a higher bar to what other people would consider like a good enough or like a good piece of craft.
Yeah.
But that's a daily, perhaps hourly fight that everybody who makes stuff on the internet feels.
But like it's very funny that you phrase it that way because I wasn't thinking of your desk toy that cynically. But like to me that's a good example of a healthy value add, right? Where you transform your labor into a scalable thing that people can enjoy.
Yeah.
I like how you're just like silent.
I mean, like I'm I'm just here. I think that the creator stuff is one piece. Like there's a lot of cultures that aren't necessarily like directly related to the creator economy. So like my head in the conversation is maybe in a different spot.
Yes, and Isis, yes, bangers are back. Oops, I forgot to
Indeed.
tell you specifically.
Whoops.
I realized I didn't tell our own Discord. That's the one Discord I missed.
Oh, in our Discord?
Yes, the OK Banger
Whoops.
Discord is where no notifications were sent about our live stream.
That's okay. I didn't do it either.
Yeah. But yeah, so any last thoughts about the article? And then we'll announce our next discussion.
No, I'm good to go. I don't remember what we're doing next, so take it away.
Oh, okay. Well, I actually got a physical copy of This Is Water by
Oh,
David Foster
cool.
Wallace.
Cool. Yeah.
So,
This is Water, David Foster Wallace, a very internet famous graduation speech.
mhm.
Excited to chat about that next week as we figure out is all this stuff around us water or not?
Yes. And I think this is available for free on the internet as
Oh yeah, for sure.
well. Oh,
Plenty of spots.
I actually have. At first, I was like, "Isn't this an essay? How can they print it into a full book?" And I realized that
Fun.
like, it's pretty short on the
Yeah.
inside.
Is
Okay,
what it
good.
is. It is that value add? Hard to tell.
Yeah. I don't
Are
know. I now that we're on this whole like, I'm trying to have physical copies of our books
yeah.
train, I do feel like it is kind of nice to have like a little handheld copy of a book.
Yeah. I
So
like
value add for
tactile
me.
stuff too. All
So
right, y'all.
please read along if you're interested. David Foster Wallace. Um, honestly, he has a lot other essays that are not as popular that I really like his gonzo journalism type essays.
Yeah,
And like but This Is Water is the most popular or the most well known because it's a graduation speech, right?
for sure. Infinite Jest is obviously the thing that comes to mind for a lot of
Oh
people
yeah.
when they think DFW. But we didn't want to read 2,000 pages of whatever the heck that is.
Yeah, I was very disturbed when Cameron first proposed Infinite Jest as the next book. I was like, no, I have read that first 5% of that book about 10 times. I have never
It's so
gotten
good
through
though.
it.
Well, I mean, we're definitely going to talk about it next week a little bit. So,
Okay.
all right,
The,
y'all.
the